Before we begin, it's important to state that the information in this presentation is for educational and spiritual purposes only, and is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If you are struggling with your mental health, please consult a qualified healthcare professional. Your well-being is the absolute priority. It's 3 in the morning. The house is silent, but your mind is screaming. You're staring at the dark ceiling, replaying a conversation from yesterday, pre-worrying about a meeting tomorrow, and wrestling with a regret from 10 years ago. Your heart is pounding a frantic rhythm against your ribs. You've tried counting sheep, you've tried deep breathing, you've tried scrolling on your phone until your eyes burn. But the noise, the relentless, chaotic noise inside your head just won't stop. If that sounds even remotely familiar, you are not alone. And you are in exactly the right place. We live in an age of anxiety. Our minds are under constant assault. From the moment we wake up, it's a flood. The ping of a notification, the urgent headline, the endless scroll of perfect lives on social media that make our own feel less than. We're bombarded with information, with demands, with expectations. We're conditioned to be constantly on, constantly productive, constantly connected. But in this race to keep up, we've forgotten how to be still. We've lost the art of being quiet. Our inner world has become a reflection of our outer world. Loud, chaotic, and overwhelming. And this isn't just a feeling. It's a genuine crisis of the mind. We're running on a mental treadmill that's set to an impossible speed. And we're terrified to step off for even a second, fearing we'll be left behind. But what is the cost of this constant noise? It's our peace. It's our clarity. It's our ability to hear our own intuition, our own soul, and the gentle whisper of God. We trade serenity for stimulation, and we end up with a mind that feels like a battlefield instead of a sanctuary. But what if I told you there's an ancient, powerful technology designed specifically for this problem? A tool that has been used for thousands of years to calm the storm, to center the spirit, and to reclaim the quiet spaces in our minds. I'm talking about prayer. Now, before you click away, I want you to forget everything you think you know about prayer. This isn't about religion in the way you might think. It's not about reciting memorized words perfectly, or getting on your knees if that's not for you. This is about communication. It's about connection. It's about intentionally creating a space for stillness in your mind, and inviting a power greater than your anxiety to come into that space. Think of it like this: your anxious mind is a room with 100 TVs blaring at full volume, all on different channels. Prayer is the act of walking into that room, picking up a single remote, and pressing mute. It's a conscious decision to turn down the volume of the world, so you can finally hear the one voice that truly matters. In this video, we are going to walk through 5 specific, powerful, calming prayers. These aren't just words. They are anchors for your mind. They are declarations of peace. They are your remote control for the chaos. By the end of our time together, you will have a spiritual toolkit you can use anytime, anywhere. In the dead of night, in the middle of a traffic jam, or 5 minutes before a stressful meeting, to find your center and reclaim your peace. So let's begin with our very first prayer. This one is for the moments when you feel completely overwhelmed, when the to-do list is a mile long and your worries feel like a physical weight on your chest. We'll call this the prayer of surrender. The concept of surrender can be scary for a lot of us. We're taught to fight, to hustle, to control every outcome. Surrender sounds like giving up. But in a spiritual sense, surrender is the opposite of giving up. It's not waving a white flag to your problems. It's waving a white flag to the stress about your problems. It's the act of acknowledging that you, with your own limited strength and understanding, cannot carry this burden alone. It's about handing the reins over to God. It's saying, "I've done all I can, and now I trust you to handle the rest." This prayer is powerful because it short-circuits the anxiety loop. Anxiety thrives on the illusion of control. It convinces you that if you just worry enough, think enough, and plan for every possible negative outcome, you can prevent bad things from happening. But that's a lie. The prayer of surrender breaks that illusion. It's an act of profound humility and incredible strength. It's admitting you are not the general manager of the universe. And the relief that comes from that admission is immediate and immense. When you prepare to say these words, I want you to do something physical. I want you to unclench your jaw, relax your shoulders, let them drop away from your ears. And I want you to open your hands, turn your palms up, as a physical sign that you are ready to let go, to release the things you've been gripping so tightly. You don't have to say these words out loud if you're not comfortable, but I encourage you to try. Let the vibration of the words be a part of the experience. Find a quiet breath. And let's begin. God, I am overwhelmed. The weight of my worries feels too heavy for my shoulders. The noise in my mind is deafening. I confess that I have been trying to control everything, to solve every problem in my own strength, and I am exhausted. Right now, in this moment, I surrender. I surrender my fears about the future. I surrender my regrets about the past. I surrender this situation with mention a specific worry silently to yourself. I release my grip. I open my hands and I give it all to you. You are my peace. You are my strength. You are my refuge. Fill the spaces that my anxiety once occupied with your calming presence. Guide my steps, quiet my spirit, and carry this burden for me, because I can no longer carry it alone. Amen. Just breathe with that for a moment. Feel the shift. The simple act of naming the overwhelm and intentionally handing it over is a powerful first step. You didn't solve the problem, but you released the anxiety about the problem. You've transferred the burden. This is a prayer you can come back to again and again throughout your day. Every time you feel that familiar tightness in your chest, that frantic energy rising, just pause. Open your hands and whisper, I surrender this to you. You are rewiring your brain's response to stress. Instead of defaulting to panic, you are creating a new neural pathway. A pathway to peace, a pathway to God. This isn't a one-and-done solution. It's a practice, a muscle you build over time. The more you practice surrendering the small things, the easier it will be to trust God with the big things. You are learning to live with open hands, ready to receive peace instead of clinging to worry. And with those open hands, we prepare ourselves for our second prayer. Because once we've let go of what we're clinging to, we create space. But space can feel empty, even scary, if we don't know how to fill it. The anxious mind abhors a vacuum. It will rush to fill that new space with the next worry, the next what if, the next catastrophe scenario. It's like a weed that grows back the moment you turn your back. So, how do we fill that space? How do we cultivate a garden of peace where the weeds of worry used to grow? We do it with one of the most powerful, scientifically proven, and spiritually profound tools we have: gratitude. This brings us to our second calming prayer, the prayer of thankful seeing. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Gratitude? That's it? When my life is falling apart, you want me to be thankful for the sunshine. And I hear you. It can feel dismissive. It can feel like putting a tiny bandage on a gaping wound. But that's a fundamental misunderstanding of what gratitude really is. It isn't about ignoring the pain. It's not about pretending the darkness doesn't exist. Gratitude is about turning on a light. A small one at first, but a light nonetheless. And even the smallest light changes the entire landscape of a dark room. It gives you a point of reference. It shows you you're not lost in an infinite void. The anxious mind is a master of scarcity. It tells you that you don't have enough time, not enough money, not enough energy, not enough love. It's a lens that magnifies lack. Gratitude is the act of deliberately changing that lens. It is the conscious choice to look for and acknowledge the good that is already present. Let me tell you about a woman I know. We'll call her Maria. Maria was drowning, not in water but in overwhelm. She had 2 young kids, a demanding job she was terrified of losing, and a mortgage that felt like a mountain on her shoulders. Her mind was a constant, buzzing beehive of to-do lists and worst-case scenarios. She'd wake up at 3 a.m. with her heart pounding, her thoughts racing from a missed deadline at work to the weird noise the car was making to a forgotten permission slip for her son's field trip. Peace was a foreign concept. It was something other people had. Her therapist suggested a gratitude journal. Maria almost laughed. A journal? I don't have time to sleep, and you want me to write in a journal? But she was desperate, so she agreed to try. The first night, she sat with a pen and a blank page, and her mind was just as blank. She felt ridiculous. What was there to be grateful for? The pile of laundry? The stack of bills? The exhaustion that settled deep in her bones? Finally, annoyed, she wrote down, the hot water in my shower. It was lame. It was basic. But it was true. The next night, she added, my son told me a funny joke today. The night after that, the coffee I had this morning was really good. Felt silly, pointless, but she kept doing it. And slowly, imperceptibly at first, something began to shift. She wasn't just writing things down at night. She started looking for them during the day. She was training her brain like a muscle to scan for the good. She started noticing the way the sunlight hit the kitchen floor in the morning. She started really hearing her daughter's laughter instead of just registering it as background noise. She started appreciating the quiet 5-minute drive between the daycare and the office. Her problems didn't magically disappear. The mortgage was still there. Her boss was still demanding. But the weight of it all began to feel different. The beehive in her head started to quiet down. She was filling the spaces between the worries with tiny pinpricks of light, and those pinpricks were starting to add up. This is the power of the prayer of thankful seeing. It's not a formal, down-on-your-knees kind of prayer, unless you want it to be. It's a running conversation. It's a way of moving through your day. It's a simple, profound practice. Here's how it sounds. It's a prayer you can say in a moment, anytime, anywhere. God, open my eyes to see the gifts hidden in this day. Thank you for this breath in my lungs. Thank you for the feeling of solid ground beneath my feet. Help me to notice the small wonders, the taste of this water, the warmth of this sweater, the sound of a distant bird. Forgive me for focusing only on what is broken, and help me see the beauty in what remains. Thank you for the grace that has carried me this far. Let my gratitude be the anchor that holds me steady in the storm. Amen. Do you feel the shift in that? It's a prayer that moves you from a posture of begging to a posture of receiving. It acknowledges that even in the middle of our hardest moments, we are still being sustained. We are still breathing. We are still held in existence by a force greater than our problems. There's real science to this. When you practice gratitude, your brain releases dopamine and serotonin, the two crucial neurotransmitters responsible for our emotions. They are our body's natural antidepressants and mood enhancers. It's been shown to improve sleep, boost the immune system, and lower stress. You are literally rewiring your brain's neural pathways to be more resilient, more positive, more peaceful. You are carving out new grooves for your thoughts to travel down. Grooves of peace instead of panic. Think of it this way, your mind is a garden. If you do nothing, the weeds of fear and anxiety will naturally take over. They require no effort. But if you want to grow something else, peace, joy, contentment, you have to be intentional. You have to plant seeds. Every single moment you choose to be thankful, you are planting a seed of peace. Maria's story didn't end with her winning the lottery or quitting her job. It ended with something much more realistic and, I think, much more hopeful. She found a way to coexist with her challenges. She learned that she could feel stressed about a project at work and feel grateful for her supportive colleague. She could feel worried about finances and feel deep gratitude for the family dinner where everyone was laughing. The two feelings could exist at once. The gratitude didn't erase the worry, but it balanced the scales. It kept the worry from consuming her whole reality. It reminded her that the story of her life was bigger than the story of her problems. Your challenge, if you're up for it, is to start this practice today. Not tomorrow. Not when things get better. Right now. In this moment. What is one tiny specific thing you can be thankful for? Is it the chair you're sitting in? The device you're watching this on? The fact that you have a few minutes to yourself right now to even listen to this? Find one thing. And then say the prayer, either out loud or in the quiet of your own heart. God, thank you for that one thing. Open my eyes to see more. That's it. That's the beginning. You are turning on the light. The prayer of surrender taught us to open our hands and let go. The prayer of thankful seeing teaches us what to fill those open hands with. It's about recognizing the manna that is already all around us, the daily bread we so often overlook in our search for a grand feast. But let's be honest. There are days when this feels impossible. There are seasons of life, seasons of grief or pain or profound struggle, where the darkness is so thick that the idea of finding a light feels like a cruel joke. What do you do then? What do you do when you are so weak, so tired, so broken that you can't even lift your head to look for the good? When surrender feels like defeat and gratitude feels like a lie. That's when we need a different kind of prayer. Not a prayer of letting go. Not a prayer of seeing, but a prayer for pure, unshakable strength to simply endure. A prayer for the moments we feel we have nothing left. And that is exactly where we are going next. This third prayer, our prayer of endurance, isn't for the sudden crisis. It's for the long winter. It's for the trial that doesn't have a clear finish line. It's for the chronic illness, the difficult marriage, the thankless job, the slow-moving grief. It's for the battles of attrition that drain our spirit one drop at a time. This is the prayer for when you feel like you're being worn down to nothing by the slow, relentless friction of life. I want to tell you about a woman named Maria. For years, her life had been a whirlwind of building a career, raising 2 kids, and managing a household. It was busy, chaotic even, but it was a life she recognized. Then her husband, David, got sick. It wasn't a sudden dramatic illness. It was a slow, creeping neurological disease that began to steal him away piece by piece. First it was his balance. then his ability to work. Then his speech began to slur. His thoughts became clouded. The man she had built her life with was slowly being replaced by a stranger who looked just like him. Maria became his full-time caregiver. Her world, once expansive and full of possibilities, shrank to the four walls of their home. Her calendar, once filled with meetings and soccer games, was now a grid of medication schedules and doctor's appointments. Her conversations, once about dreams and politics and laughter, became a repeating loop of simple questions and one-word answers. Every morning she woke up to the same monumental task: get through the day. And every night, she went to bed with the crushing weight of knowing tomorrow would be exactly the same. She prayed, of course. In the beginning, she prayed for a miracle, for a cure. She prayed for the doctors to be wrong. When that didn't happen, she prayed for acceptance, for the grace to let go of the man David used to be. But she found that wasn't enough. Acceptance felt passive, like surrender. And she couldn't surrender. She had to feed him, bathe him, help him. She had to be strong. But her strength was failing. She described it to her sister as feeling like an old stone wall in a constant drizzling rain. Not a thunderstorm, just a persistent, cold drizzle that seeps into every crack, loosens the mortar, and threatens to bring the whole structure down, one stone at a time. One afternoon, David had a particularly bad day. He became agitated, confused, and didn't recognize her. He looked at her with fear in his eyes, this man she had loved for 25 years, and he called for his mother, who had been gone for a decade. Something inside Maria just broke. She went into the laundry room, closed the door, slid down against the washing machine, and for the first time in a long time, she didn't pray for him. She didn't pray for a cure or for acceptance. She prayed for herself with a desperation she had never known. The prayer that came out wasn't eloquent. It was a whisper. God, I can't do this anymore. I have nothing left. Please just hold me up. Just for today. Just hold me up. That raw, desperate plea is the heart of our third prayer. It's a prayer that acknowledges our own emptiness and asks for a strength that is not our own. It's the prayer of the unbent reed. It's for when you feel you're about to snap. Find a quiet space, close your eyes, and let these words become your own. Divine Sustainer, I am tired. My bones are weary and my soul is worn thin. The storm I face is not passing quickly. It lingers and its winds push against me day after day. I feel myself starting to crack, to splinter under the relentless pressure. I confess I do not feel strong. I feel fragile. So I ask not for the storm to cease, but for you to change my nature in its midst. Make me not a rigid oak, proud and strong, only to be shattered by a gale I cannot withstand. Instead, make me like the humble reed by the river. Root me deeply in your everlasting strength, a foundation that the floodwaters cannot wash away. When the winds of my trial blow, grant me the grace to bend, to yield without breaking. Fill my hollow spaces not with fear, but with your unshakable peace, so that I may sway with the forces that seek to level me, and yet remain whole. Sustain me through this long season. Remind me that flexibility is its own form of strength, and that endurance is a quiet miracle. When the wind stills and the sun returns, let me rise again, not unchanged but unbroken, ready to greet the light. Amen. Let's sit with that for a moment. Make me not a rigid oak but a humble reed. This is a profound shift in how we think about strength. Our culture, especially here in the United States, often glorifies the oak, the symbol of unyielding brute force. We're told to stand strong, to be a rock, to never let them see you sweat. But a rock doesn't feel. An oak in a hurricane shatters. It's the reed, the bamboo, the blade of grass that survives the storm because it knows how to yield, how to bend. This prayer is a radical act of humility. It admits, my own strength isn't enough. The ego wants to be the oak. The soul knows it is the reed. The prayer doesn't ask God to fix the problem. It asks God to fortify us within the problem. It shifts the goal from victory to survival, from conquering the storm to outlasting it. And sometimes just outlasting it is the greatest victory of all. For Maria, this prayer became her lifeline. She would say it in the morning before David woke up. She would whisper it to herself while doing the endless loads of laundry. She would repeat it in her heart when David would have an outburst or look at her with that vacant stare. The prayer didn't magically make her caregiving duties easier. The drizzle didn't stop. But the prayer reinforced her foundation. It reminded her that her strength wasn't coming from her own shallow well of patience and energy, which was often dry. It was coming from a deeper divine source. She stopped seeing her flexibility as a weakness. Bending was not breaking. Adapting to a new, terrible reality was not surrender. It was an act of profound strength and love. The prayer gave her permission to not be a superhero. It gave her permission to be tired, to be sad, and to still keep going. It helped her find a strange, resilient peace in the middle of her unending storm. The peace wasn't in the absence of trouble. It was in the assurance that she was being held up, that she could bend to the point of breaking, and still somehow be held together. This prayer is for every one of us who is facing a long, hard road. The student drowning in a semester that feels impossible. The entrepreneur whose business is struggling to stay afloat month after month. The parent of a special needs child, whose challenges are a lifelong marathon. Anyone who looks at the path ahead and thinks, I don't know if I have what it takes to get there. This prayer says you don't have to have it all right now. You just have to have enough for this moment. Enough strength to bend, not break. Enough grace to be rooted, not uprooted. It's a prayer for the marathon of life, for the quiet, unseen battles that demand not a sprint of courage, but a lifetime of endurance. It is the peace of the unbent reed, which teaches us that the most resilient things in nature are not always the strongest, but the most willing to yield to a power greater than themselves. We've now explored 3 distinct types of peace, 3 prayers for 3 different struggles. A prayer to let go of the past that haunts us. A prayer to see the beauty in a present we overlook. And a prayer to endure a present that feels unbearable. We've looked backward and we've looked at the now. But there's another thief of peace, perhaps the most common of all. It's the anxiety that comes from looking forward. It's the fear of the unknown, the endless cascade of what-ifs that flood our minds and steal our quiet. What about the storm that hasn't even arrived yet? What about the peace we lose not to a present reality, but to a future possibility? To find the answer, we must turn to our 4th prayer. A prayer for a mind free from the tyranny of tomorrow. This is a special kind of anxiety, isn't it? It's the ghost that haunts the quiet hours after midnight. It's the knot in your stomach on a Sunday evening, thinking about the week ahead. It's the fear of a conversation you haven't had, a bill that hasn't arrived, a diagnosis you haven't received. We become fortune tellers of our own despair, predicting futures filled with failure and pain, and then we live in them as if they were real. We sacrifice the peace of today on the altar of a tomorrow that exists only in our imagination. This is the tyranny of the future, and it is a relentless master. But we do not have to be its slave. Our 4th prayer is a declaration of independence. It is a tool for reclaiming the present moment. It is simple, direct, and profoundly powerful. Let's say it together in our hearts. Lord of all time, release me from the chains of what? Anchor my soul in the grace of this present moment. Grant me the strength to face today, for tomorrow is in your hands, not mine. Let your peace be my now. Amen. Consider the story of a man named David. David was a good man, a talented graphic designer who had spent 15 years at the same stable, if unexciting company. He had a family, a mortgage, and the quiet comfort of predictability. But an opportunity arose, a chance to join a small, innovative startup. The potential was huge: creative freedom, a leadership role, the chance to build something from the ground up. But the risk was just as massive. Startups are notoriously volatile. What if it failed? What if he couldn't keep up with the younger, hungrier team? What if he made the leap and ended up with nothing, jeopardizing his family's security? For weeks, David lived in a state of suspended animation. During the day, he'd go through the motions at his old job, his mind a million miles away, running endless, agonizing simulations of the future. At night, he'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, his heart pounding with a fear that was entirely self-generated. He wasn't in danger. His family was safe. His current job was secure. He was living in a self-made prison of what if. He was losing weight. He was irritable with his kids. The joy was draining from his life, not because of any actual hardship, but because he was being crushed by the weight of a decision he hadn't even made yet. He was borrowing trouble from 2 different, imaginary futures, and paying the interest with the peace of his present. One night, his wife found him in the kitchen at 3 a.m., just staring into an empty coffee cup. She didn't offer advice or platitudes. She just put her hand on his shoulder and said, "David, you can't live in tomorrow. You're missing today." It was simple, but it was the crack of light he needed. He realized he had forgotten how to just be. He had forgotten that faith isn't about having a guaranteed map of the future. It's about trusting the guide for the step you're taking right now. He sat down and, from a place of deep exhaustion, he prayed a version of the prayer we just learned. Let's break down what this prayer does using David's story. The first line, Lord of all time, release me from the chains of what if. Notice the imagery. Chains. Anxiety about the future isn't a fleeting thought. It's a form of bondage. It shackles us. For David, the what-ifs were 1,000 invisible chains holding him captive in his kitchen chair. What if I fail? What if I regret it? What if I'm not good enough? By vocalizing this plea, he wasn't just thinking new thoughts. He was performing a spiritual act of rebellion. He was acknowledging that these chains were real, and that he did not have the strength to break them on his own. He was handing the key over to a power greater than his fear. The second part, anchor my soul in the grace of this present moment. This is the prayer's pivot point. It doesn't ask for a sign about the future. It doesn't ask for the right answer. It asks for an anchor. When a ship is in a storm, an anchor doesn't make the storm disappear. The wind still howls, the waves still crash. But the anchor holds the ship fast, preventing it from being smashed against the rocks. For David at 3 a.m., the grace of the present moment was the solid feel of the chair beneath him, the quiet hum of the refrigerator, the warmth of his wife's hand. It was the reality that, in that exact second, he was safe. Nothing had gone wrong. He still had his job. His family was asleep and secure upstairs. The prayer pulled his mind out of the imaginary tempests of tomorrow and anchored him in the calm, tangible reality of now. And finally, the conclusion. Grant me the strength to face today, for tomorrow is in your hands, not mine. Let your peace be my now. This is the great surrender. This is where true freedom is found. David realized he had been trying to do God's job. He was trying to control tomorrow. He was trying to manage outcomes that were utterly beyond his control. This prayer is an act of cosmic delegation. It's saying, I will handle today. I will do the research, I will have the conversations, I will weigh the pros and cons. That is my work for today. The outcome, the success or failure, the events of next month and next year, that is your work. I release it to you. The peace he felt wasn't the peace of having an answer. It was the peace of no longer needing to have one. He could finally breathe because he was only responsible for the breath he was taking right now. The next morning, David woke up. The decision was still there. The uncertainty hadn't vanished. But the terror had. The crippling anxiety was gone, replaced by a quiet sense of purpose. He was anchored. He could now approach the decision not from a place of fear, but from a place of grounded clarity. The prayer didn't solve his problem for him, but it cleared the mental and spiritual fog, so he could face the problem with all of his strength and wisdom. This is the power available to you. Think about the what if that is chaining you down right now. The job interview next week. The doctor's appointment next month. The financial uncertainty of next year. These things are stealing the joy, the focus, and the life from your today. This prayer is your anchor. It is your declaration of independence. It is the conscious choice to stop living in a hypothetical, fear-based future and to start living in the real, grace-filled present. It is the understanding that peace is not the absence of a future storm, but the presence of an anchor in the midst of today's uncertainty. But even when we've made peace with our past and surrendered our future, there is one final source of noise that threatens our quiet mind. It's not internal, it's external. It's the relentless, deafening roar of the world around us. What do we do when the chaos isn't coming from our own thoughts, but from the constant barrage of opinions, expectations, and demands of others? How do we find a quiet mind in a loud world? For that, we need our fifth and final prayer. A prayer for sacred silence. This fifth prayer is perhaps the most difficult in our modern age. It's a prayer for the kind of quiet that feels almost impossible to achieve. We live in a world that never stops talking. Our phones buzz with notifications, our feeds scroll with endless opinions, our inboxes fill with urgent requests. We are constantly being told what to think, how to feel, who to be, what to buy, and what success should look like. The noise isn't just sound. It's a crushing weight of expectation. It's the voice of a demanding boss, a critical family member, the impossible standards of social media, the political commentator shouting through the screen. Each voice is a thread, and over time, they weave themselves into a heavy blanket that smothers our own inner knowing, our own intuition, our own connection to the divine. We become so attuned to the clamor of the crowd that we can no longer hear the still, small voice within. I remember a man I once knew, let's call him David. David was the epitome of a successful person by the world's standards. Great job, nice car, a social calendar that was always full. But if you sat with him for more than 5 minutes, You could feel a frantic energy radiating from him, a deep humming anxiety. His entire life was a performance. He was constantly checking his phone not for connection but for validation. Did his post get enough likes? Did his boss email him back with praise? Did his friends approve of his weekend plans? He was a mirror perfectly reflecting back what he thought everyone else wanted to see. The tragic part was, he had been doing it for so long, he had forgotten what his own reflection looked like. He had no idea what he wanted, what he believed, what brought him genuine joy. His soul was starving in the middle of a feast of external approval. His breaking point came on a Tuesday afternoon. He was in a high-stakes meeting, presenting a project he'd poured months into. But he hadn't built the project on a foundation of his own expertise or vision. He had built it on a patchwork of opinions. He tried to incorporate every piece of feedback from every executive, every manager, and every colleague, terrified of displeasing anyone. The result was a convoluted, incoherent mess. It was a project designed by a committee of ghosts, and it had no heart, no soul. As he fumbled through his presentation, seeing the confused and disappointed looks on their faces, something inside him didn't just break, it shattered. He finished the meeting, walked back to his office, closed the door, and for the first time in years, he was met with silence. And it was terrifying. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was a vacuum, and all the voices of failure and judgment and disappointment rushed in to fill it. In that moment of total despair, he did something he hadn't done since he was a child. He prayed. But he didn't ask for success or for people to like him. He prayed a desperate one-sentence prayer. God, just make it all stop. He sat there, head in his hands, and just let that prayer echo in his heart. Make it all stop. He went home that night, and instead of turning on the TV or scrolling through his phone, he just sat on his couch in the dark. He fought the urge to fill the silence. It was the hardest thing he had ever done. The phantom buzz of his phone seemed to echo in his pocket. The ghosts of other people's expectations whispered in the corners of the room. But he just sat, and he kept repeating his prayer. Make it all stop. Slowly, over days and then weeks, something began to shift. He started a new practice. For 10 minutes every morning, before looking at any screen, he would sit in silence and offer a prayer not just for peace, but for protection from the noise. He began to see the constant barrage of external voices for what it was: an invasion, an assault on the sacred territory of his mind and spirit. He realized he had been living with the doors and windows of his soul wide open, allowing anyone and anything to wander in, rearrange the furniture, and write on the walls. This new prayer was him deciding to finally lock the door. He was choosing who to let in. And in that slowly expanding space of silence, he began to hear it. A voice he barely recognized at first. It wasn't loud. It wasn't demanding. It was a gentle, steady whisper. It was his own. It was the voice of his own values, his own desires, his own wisdom. And beneath that, or perhaps intertwined with it, was a deeper resonance. The quiet, loving guidance he came to recognize as the voice of God. He started making small changes. He said no to a social event he didn't want to go to. He unsubscribed from dozens of newsletters. He unfollowed accounts that made him feel anxious or inadequate. Each no to the outside world was a yes to his own soul. His life didn't fall apart. In fact, it began to come together in a way that was authentic and strong. His work improved because it was now driven by his own clear vision. His true friendships deepened because he was showing up as himself, not as a reflection of who he thought they wanted him to be. He found that the validation he had so desperately chased from the world was a cheap imitation of the profound, unshakable worth he was discovering within. David learned that a quiet mind isn't just about calming your own thoughts. It's about building a fortress of solitude around your spirit, a sacred space where the noise of the world is muffled, and the voice of God can be heard. This is the prayer for that sacred silence. It's a prayer of spiritual boundary setting. So if you feel overwhelmed by the demands and opinions of others, if you feel your own inner voice has been drowned out by the crowd, I invite you to pray this with me. Let this be your declaration of spiritual independence. Here is the prayer for sacred silence. Heavenly Father, creator of the quiet dawn and the deep silent night, I come to you overwhelmed. My mind is a marketplace of other people's voices, filled with the clamor of expectations, opinions, and demands. I am losing myself in the noise. Today, I ask you to build a sacred hedge of protection around my mind and my heart. Silence the shouts of the world so I can hear the whisper of your will. Filter out the static of comparison, the buzz of criticism, and the siren song of empty validation. Lord, let my worth be anchored in your unwavering love, not in the shifting sands of public opinion. Grant me the wisdom to discern which voices to heed and which to release. Give me the courage to disappoint others in order to be obedient to you. Tune my heart to the frequency of your peace, that divine signal that broadcasts beneath all the chaos. In this sacred silence you are creating for me, speak, Lord. Let me hear your guidance. Let me rediscover my own God-given intuition. Help me to walk through this loud world with a quiet confidence, not in myself, but in the one who walks with me. Amen. This prayer is a powerful tool. It's a way of saying, this mind, this spirit, this soul, it is not public property. When you pray to build a hedge of protection, you are visualizing a real spiritual boundary. You are declaring that you are no longer allowing unfiltered access to your innermost being. When you ask to silence the shouts of the world, you are actively choosing to demote the importance of other people's opinions. You are taking their voices off the throne of your heart and putting God's voice there instead. The most transformative line, perhaps, is asking for the courage to disappoint others. So many of us live in a constant low-grade fear of letting people down. We are people pleasers, peacekeepers, shapeshifters. But true spiritual maturity begins when we realize that our primary calling is not to please everyone around us, but to please God. And sometimes that path will inevitably lead to disappointing people who have a different plan for our lives. This prayer asks for the strength to make that difficult but necessary choice. I encourage you to find your own 10 minutes of silence. Maybe it's in the car after you park at work before you go inside. Maybe it's on a walk with no headphones. And in that quiet, speak this prayer. Let it be the key that locks the door to the noise and opens the window to peace. We've now explored 5 prayers, 5 keys to unlock a quiet mind. But unlocking the door is one thing. Learning to live in the quiet house of our own soul, day after day, is another challenge entirely. And that's where the real journey begins. The real journey isn't lived on a mountaintop, in a silent monastery, or during a week-long retreat. The real journey happens on a Tuesday morning, when the alarm didn't go off, the coffee spills on your shirt, and you get an urgent email from your boss before you've even left the house. It's in those moments that the peace we felt during a prayer can feel like a distant memory, a faint echo that's drowned out by the noise of life. The world rushes back in with a vengeance, and the quiet mind we so carefully cultivated suddenly feels like a chaotic marketplace of anxiety and to-do lists. This is the gap between the intention and the reality. The gap between the 5 minutes of peace we find in a prayer and the other 23 hours and 55 minutes of the day. So how do we bridge that gap? How do we take these beautiful, powerful prayers and weave them into the very fabric of our lives, so they become not just a refuge we run to, but the very foundation we stand on? The answer lies in a concept that might sound more corporate than spiritual, but its power is undeniable. It's the idea of building a habit. Not just a habit of praying when we're in crisis, but a habit of connecting to the calm in the everyday. Think about your current habits. You probably don't consciously decide to brush your teeth each morning. You just do it. It's linked to waking up or getting out of the shower. You don't debate whether to have your morning coffee. The smell of it brewing is an automatic part of your day. These are neural pathways carved deep into your brain through repetition. We can use this same principle to build a spiritual practice that sticks. The secret is to anchor the new habit you want to create, a moment of prayer, to an existing habit you already do without thinking. It's called habit stacking. Instead of trying to find a brand new 30-minute slot in your already packed schedule, you find a 2-second opening that's already there. Let's make this practical. Let's take the 5 types of prayers we've discussed and see how we can anchor them into a typical day. Take a prayer of gratitude. Where can we anchor it? How about your morning coffee or tea? You already do this every day. The new rule is simple. Before the first sip touches your lips, you take one deep breath and say a short prayer of thanks. Thank you for this day, for this quiet moment, and for the warmth in this cup. That's it. You're not adding a new task. You're infusing an existing one with meaning. You're stacking a moment of peace onto a moment you already own. Before long, the very act of reaching for your mug will trigger a feeling of gratitude in your heart. Now, what about a prayer for letting go? We all accumulate so much stress and frustration throughout the day. A difficult conversation, a project that went wrong, the weight of someone else's bad mood. We carry this with us. So let's stack the prayer of letting go onto an existing evening habit. The perfect anchor? The act of washing your hands or face before bed. As the water runs over your skin, you can visualize it washing away the day's anxieties. You can say, I release what I cannot control. I let go of the worries of this day and I wash myself clean for a peaceful night's rest. You're turning a mundane act of hygiene into a profound ritual of release. Consider a prayer for strength. We all have moments in our day that require a little extra courage. It could be a tough commute, a difficult meeting, or just the challenge of getting out the door on time. Find the trigger. What do you do right before that challenging moment? Maybe it's putting on your shoes. As you tie your laces, you can say, grant me the strength to walk this path with confidence and grace. Or maybe it's the moment you put your hand on your office door. Before you turn the knob, you take one breath and ask for the fortitude to handle whatever is on the other side. You're stacking a prayer onto a moment of transition, transforming anxiety into empowerment. What about a prayer for guidance? Our days are filled with 1,000 tiny decisions and a few big ones. We often just react, running on autopilot. But what if we stacked a prayer for guidance onto the act of opening our email inbox? Before the flood of requests and demands hits you, you can take a single second to say, guide my thoughts and my words. Help me to see clearly and act with wisdom. Or you could stack it onto the moment you sit down in your car before you start the engine. Guide my journey, keep me safe, and lead me where I need to be. You're creating a sacred pause before you engage with the world's demands. And finally, a prayer of surrender. This is perhaps the most important of all. The perfect anchor for this prayer is the very last thing you do at night. The moment your head hits the pillow. It's the final act of the day. Before you drift off to sleep, you can release the entire day. Its successes, its failures, its unanswered questions, to a higher power. I have done all I can do today. I now surrender the outcome. I release my grip and trust in your care. This act of surrender clears your mind for true, restorative rest. It's a declaration that you don't have to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders while you sleep. Do you see the power in this? We're not trying to find more time. We are consecrating the time we already have. We're not adding more to our plate. We're changing the flavor of what's already on it. First, this will feel intentional. You might need to put a sticky note on your coffee maker or on your bathroom mirror. But just like carving a path in a dense forest, the first few times are the hardest. You have to push through the undergrowth. But with each repetition, the path becomes clearer. The resistance lessens. After a few weeks, the path is so well worn that you can walk it without even thinking. Your brain will have built a new neural superhighway. The cue, the coffee cup, the running water, the pillow will automatically trigger the state of mind. The peace will arrive before the prayer even begins. This is how you move from doing prayers to being prayerful. It's a subtle shift, but it changes everything. It reframes your entire day. Suddenly, a traffic jam isn't just a frustration. It's a divinely appointed pause, an invitation to say a prayer of patience. A critical email from a coworker isn't just an attack. It's a trigger to ask for strength and wisdom. The cry of a child in the middle of the night isn't just an interruption. It's a cue to pray for love and compassion. You begin to see your entire life, not as a series of obstacles to be overcome, but as a series of invitations to connect. You are transforming your triggers. The very things that used to throw you off balance now become the bells that call you back to center. This is how peace becomes your default setting, not a temporary destination. It's not about eliminating the chaos of the world. It's about finding the unshakable quiet place within you and building a bridge so strong that you can walk back to it from anywhere, at any time. This practice of habit stacking is the architecture of a resilient soul. It's the practical day-to-day work of building your inner sanctuary. But building the house is one thing. What happens on the days when you knock on the door and it feels like no one is home? What do you do when the prayers feel hollow, when your words feel like they're just hitting the ceiling and falling back down? What happens when you face the profound and terrifying challenge of silence? This is perhaps the most difficult part of any spiritual journey. It's the dark night of the soul, the desert season, the moment you feel like you're screaming into a void. For many, this is where faith shatters. Because we're taught that prayer is a conversation, a dialogue. But what happens when one side stops talking? The truth is that silence you're experiencing isn't an absence. It's an invitation. It's a different language, one we've forgotten how to speak. There's a powerful story about a prophet named Elijah. He was a man who had seen God do incredible things, call down fire from heaven, end a drought. He was a man who knew God's voice. But then he found himself in a moment of profound crisis. He was afraid for his life, exhausted and utterly alone. He fled into the wilderness and ended up in a cave on a desolate mountain, and in his despair, he cried out to God. He was waiting for the usual response, the thunder, the power, the undeniable presence he was used to. And the story says that a great and powerful wind tore through the mountains, shattering the rocks. But the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind there was an earthquake, a violent shaking of the very ground he stood on. But the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake there came a fire, a raging inferno that could consume everything. But the Lord was not in the fire. Imagine the confusion, the desperation. Elijah is looking for the spectacular, for the loud, for the undeniable proof. He's looking for the way God has always shown up before. But it's not happening. He's getting nothing but silence wrapped in chaos. And then after the fire, after all the noise and fury, there was a gentle whisper, a still small voice. And in that whisper, in that profound quiet, Elijah found God. That silence you're feeling? That sense that your prayers are hitting the ceiling? Maybe it's not because God is absent. Maybe it's because you're waiting for the earthquake, and He's waiting for you to listen for the whisper. We live in a world of noise, constant notifications, endless scrolling, the relentless hum of modern life. We've become so accustomed to the shouting that we can no longer hear the whisper. We fill our prayers with our own words, our own demands, our own anxieties, leaving no room for a quiet answer to arrive. The challenge of silence is the challenge to stop talking and start listening. It's the challenge to believe that presence isn't always loud. Sometimes the most profound connection happens not in the passionate plea, but in the shared, comfortable quiet. This brings us to our fourth prayer. A prayer specifically for these moments of perceived emptiness. It's not a prayer to break the silence, but a prayer to enter into it. We'll call it the prayer of the still, small voice. It's incredibly simple, but it requires a radical shift in your approach. It's not about asking for anything. It's about creating space. Here's how it goes. God, I do not hear you right now, and I surrender to this quiet. For a few moments I will stop speaking, and I will simply be here to listen. I will not search for you in the wind, the earthquake, or the fire. I will listen for you in the stillness. I trust that even in this silence, you are with me. My heart is open. Let's break this down because every word is intentional. It begins with radical honesty. God, I do not hear you right now. You're not pretending. You're not faking a feeling that isn't there. You're bringing your authentic self to the table. This vulnerability is the key that unlocks the door. You follow it with, and I surrender to this quiet. This is the critical step. You stop fighting the silence. You stop trying to fill it. You accept it as a reality of this moment, not as a punishment or a sign of failure. You're laying down your weapons. Then the commitment. For a few moments I will stop speaking, and I will simply be here to listen. This is the hardest part for most of us. We feel an overwhelming urge to fill the void, to repeat our request, to bargain, to list our grievances. This prayer asks you to do the opposite, to zip it, to intentionally create a space in your own mind and heart where a whisper might have a chance to be heard. The next part directly references Elijah's story. I will not search for you in the wind, the earthquake, or the fire. I will listen for you in the stillness. This is a conscious recalibration of your spiritual expectations. You are telling your own heart, stop looking for the fireworks. Stop demanding a spectacle. The goal right now is not a booming answer, but a quiet presence. It's a reminder that God's methods are not always our methods. And finally, the declaration of faith, even in the absence of feeling. I trust that even in this silence you are with me. My heart is open. Trust is not the absence of doubt. It's the choice to believe in spite of it. This line affirms your belief in a presence that transcends your immediate senses. You're choosing to believe He is there, even if you can't feel Him. My heart is open is the final posture. It's not a grasping but a receiving. It's turning your soul upward like a cup, ready to be filled, whether by a flood or by a single drop of morning dew. So how do you use this prayer? You don't repeat it like a mantra. You say it once slowly and intentionally, and then you follow through on your promise. You sit in the silence for 3 minutes, or 5, or 10. You don't try to empty your mind, that's impossible. Thoughts will come. Worries will bubble up. The grocery list will intrude. That's okay. Don't fight them. Just gently let them go, and return your focus to the quiet, to your breath, to the simple state of being present. Think of it like this. When you're with someone you love and trust deeply, you don't need to talk constantly to know they're there. You can sit together in a room, reading or just looking out the window, and the shared silence isn't empty. It's full. It's full of love, history, and understanding. The silence itself becomes a form of communication. Perhaps the divine silence is not an empty room, but an invitation to that kind of intimacy. An invitation to just be with God, without the need for a constant stream of words. It's a deeper, more mature connection that says, I don't need you to perform for me. I just need you. Practicing this prayer over time will change your relationship with silence. You'll begin to see it not as an enemy, but as a sanctuary. It's in that sacred quiet that you can finally hear the anxieties your own heart is screaming. It's in the stillness that you can untangle the knots of your own thoughts. And sometimes, just sometimes, when all the other noise fades away, you might just hear a whisper. But what if the silence isn't coming from the outside? What if the problem isn't an empty room but a crowded one? What if the noise, the chaos, the relentless screaming storm is raging within your own mind, making it impossible to hear anything at all? How do you pray when you can't even hear yourself think? This is the prayer for the person who feels like they're drowning in a sea of their own thoughts. The one for the 3 a.m. panic, when the ceiling feels like it's an inch from your face and every mistake you've ever made is playing on a relentless loop. This is the prayer for the moment you sit in your car in the grocery store parking lot, unable to get out, because the to-do list in your head is screaming louder than the radio. This inner chaos is a unique kind of suffering. It's not a grand dramatic tragedy. It's a death by 1,000 paper cuts. It's the constant low-grade hum of anxiety that short-circuits your joy and steals your presence. It's the mental browser with 100 tabs open, all of them flashing urgent, all of them demanding your attention, until your entire system crashes. And in that crash, the idea of a calm, focused prayer seems like a cruel joke. It feels like trying to light a candle in the middle of a hurricane. But what if the goal isn't to stop the hurricane? What if the goal is simply to find the eye of the storm? To create a single, unshakable point of stillness while the winds howl around you? This brings us to our fourth prayer, a practice I call the anchor prayer. It's not eloquent. It's not complex. It is, by design, the simplest tool in our kit, because when your mind is in a state of emergency, you don't need a complicated instruction manual. You need a single red button to press. The prayer is a simple 2-part mantra, tied to your breath. As you breathe in, you say to yourself, Lord, be my stillness. And as you breathe out, you say, I rest in you. Breathe in, Lord, be my stillness. Breathe out, I rest in you. That's it. That is the entire prayer. Its power isn't in the words themselves, but in the relentless, gentle repetition. It's a pattern interrupt. Your mind is spinning, chasing dozens of frantic thoughts. The unpaid bill, the awkward conversation, the fear of the future, the regret of the past. It's a chaotic dance. This prayer doesn't try to argue with any of those thoughts. It doesn't try to solve them. It simply steps onto the dance floor and changes the music. It introduces a new, simple, steady rhythm. Think of a young woman named Claire. She's a classic overachiever. Great job, active social life, always the one people depend on. But behind the scenes, her mind is a battlefield. One evening, she's trying to work on a major presentation for the next day, but she can't focus. Her thoughts are ricocheting. Did she remember to call her mom back? What did her boss mean by that comment in the meeting? Is that weird pain in her shoulder something serious? She checks her email, then Instagram, then the news, each click adding another layer of noise, another jolt of cortisol. Her heart starts beating faster. Her chest feels tight. The words on her computer screen blur into meaningless shapes. This is it. The spiral. She knows it well. It's the feeling of being trapped in a soundproof room where the only sound is the deafening static of her own anxiety. In the past, she would have fought it. She would have tried to think her way out of it, wrestling with each anxious thought, trying to pin it down with logic, which, as anyone who has been there knows, is like trying to wrestle with smoke. It only makes you more exhausted and entangled. But tonight, she remembers the anchor prayer. She closes her laptop. She doesn't try to silence the thoughts. She just lets them be. They're still there, screaming for attention. The fear about the presentation, the guilt about her mom, the worry about her health. She acknowledges them like a swarm of angry bees. Then she closes her eyes and takes a slow, deep breath. As she inhales, she thinks, Lord, be my stillness. The thoughts are still there. Asterisk, this is stupid. This isn't going to work. You're wasting time. Asterisk. She ignores them. She exhales. I rest in you. She does it again. Breathe in. Lord, be my stillness. The thought about her boss's comment tries to cut in. She lets it float by unanswered. Breathe out. I rest in you. For the first minute, it feels like a battle. Her mind is a wild horse, and this prayer is a gentle but firm hand on the reins. Keeps pulling the focus back. Back to the breath. Back to the words. Inhale. Lord, be my stillness. Exhale. I rest in you. Slowly, something begins to shift. It's not that the anxious thoughts disappear. They just lose their volume. They move from the foreground to the background. The swarm of bees is still in the room, but they're no longer swarming around her head. The prayer has created a small, safe space right in the center of the chaos. The rhythm of her breath begins to deepen. The frantic, shallow gasps are replaced by slow, deliberate waves. Her heart rate, that frantic drumbeat of anxiety, starts to slow down, matching the new, calmer rhythm. She keeps going. For 5 minutes. Inhale. Lord, be my stillness. This is a plea. It's an admission that she cannot manufacture stillness on her own. She is asking for a peace that is beyond her own ability to create. Exhale. I rest in you. This is an act of surrender. It's letting go. It's a conscious decision to stop carrying the weight of all her worries and to place them, just for this moment, into hands stronger than her own. It's the spiritual equivalent of letting your body go limp as you fall back into a pool of water, trusting that it will hold you. After about 10 minutes, Claire opens her eyes. The room is the same. The presentation is still due. Her problems haven't magically vanished. But the storm inside her has passed. The panic has subsided. The deafening static has been replaced by a gentle quiet. She can think again, not with the frantic, scattered energy of before, but with a calm, focused clarity. She has found the eye of the storm. This prayer is a spiritual anchor. When the waves of anxiety, fear, and overthinking threaten to pull you under, you drop the anchor. It doesn't stop the waves, but it holds you fast, keeps you from being swept away. The power is in its singular focus. You give your frantic, multitasking mind one, and only one thing to do: breathe and repeat. You're not trying to achieve a state of perfect, empty-minded bliss. You are simply returning again and again to your anchor. When a thought distracts you, and it will, you don't get angry with yourself. You gently, without judgment, guide your attention back. Back to the breath. Back to the words. Lord, be my stillness. I rest in you. This is the prayer that teaches us that peace isn't the absence of noise, but the presence of a focal point within the noise. It's a lifeline for the overwhelmed mind. It's a tool to reclaim your inner sanctuary, even when the world inside your head feels like it's at war. It is a profound act of trust. It is the practice of finding your footing not when the ground is stable, but precisely when it is shaking. But what happens when the shaking isn't just coming from inside? What happens when the storm isn't just a tempest in your mind, but a very real, very tangible crisis in your life? How do you pray for peace when your world is actively falling apart? This is perhaps the most difficult prayer of all, because it's one thing to ask for peace when the enemy is a vague, shadowy anxiety. It's another thing entirely to ask for peace when the enemy is standing on your doorstep, handing you an eviction notice. It's one thing to pray for a quiet mind when your thoughts are racing, and another to pray for it when the doctor's words are echoing in the silent car ride home. When the storm is real, the prayer has to become real too. It has to become more than a wish. It has to become an anchor. Let me tell you about a woman named Sarah. Sarah poured her entire life savings, her heart, and 10 years of her life into a small independent bookstore. It was her sanctuary, a haven of worn paper and quiet corners in a bustling city. For years it thrived. It was her identity, her purpose, her joy. And then the world changed. A new development project rerouted traffic away from her street. An online giant moved into the market, undercutting her prices with brutal efficiency. The storm wasn't in her mind. It was in her sales reports, in the empty chairs, in the dust gathering on her favorite classics. Every night, Sarah would lock the door to her empty shop and pray. She prayed with a desperate intensity. God, please send more customers. Please let me make rent this month. Please save my store. Please don't let this die. She was praying for the storm to stop. She was bargaining with the heavens, trying to hold back the floodwaters with her bare hands. But with every prayer, the water level seemed to rise. The final notices started arriving. The phone calls from the bank became more frequent. Her hope began to fray, and her prayers started to feel like hollow echoes in an empty room. One evening, sitting in the dark, surrounded by the books she loved, she broke. The despair was a physical weight. She had nothing left. And in that moment of absolute surrender, a different kind of prayer surfaced. It wasn't a prayer of petition, but a prayer of release. She wasn't asking for the storm to end anymore. She was asking for the strength to stand in the middle of it. This is the fourth prayer. The prayer for peace in the storm. It's a prayer that acknowledges the reality of the hurricane, while anchoring your soul to something immovable. It doesn't deny the pain. It invites God into it. The prayer isn't about changing your circumstances. It's about changing your posture within those circumstances. It's the difference between fighting a riptide and letting it carry you until you can swim parallel to the shore. Fighting it exhausts you. Surrendering to its power, while maintaining your direction, saves you. Sarah's prayer that night sounded something like this. God, I am here. And I am breaking. I will not pretend this isn't happening. I will not pretend I'm not terrified. My dream is dying and I don't know what to do. I have prayed for you to save it. And now I see that may not be your plan. So today, I'm not asking you to calm the storm. I am asking you to calm me. I release my frantic grip on the outcome I think I need. I surrender my illusion of control. Instead, grant me courage for this single moment. Grant me clarity to see the next right step, even if I can't see the whole path. Be my anchor in these waves. Let me feel your peace, not as the absence of trouble, but as your steadfast presence right here with me in the heart of it. Do you see the shift? It is profound. It's a move from God, fix this for me, to God, be with me in this. One is a prayer of desperation for a specific outcome. The other is a prayer of trust in a constant presence, regardless of the outcome. This prayer is built on a foundation of radical acceptance. Not acceptance as in passive resignation, but acceptance as in, this is the reality I am facing. I will not waste my precious energy wishing it were different. I will instead use my energy to navigate what is. When your world is falling apart, your mind often races into a catastrophic future. If I lose my job, I'll lose my house, and then I'll be on the street, and my life will be over. This prayer pulls you out of that terrifying future and plants you firmly in the only place you have any power. Right now. Grant me courage for this single moment. Not for next week, not for next year. Just for this breath. And the next. The prayer also redefines what peace is. We are conditioned to believe peace is a quiet beach, a hammock, a life without problems. But the peace the scriptures speak of, the peace that surpasses all understanding, is a different kind of peace. It's a peace that can coexist with chaos. It's the calm in the eye of the hurricane. It's the deep, settled knowledge that even if the ground beneath you gives way, you will not be utterly destroyed. You are held by something stronger than your circumstances. For Sarah, that prayer changed everything. It didn't magically save her bookstore. In the end, she did have to close its doors. The storm ran its course. But Sarah wasn't destroyed by it. By praying for strength instead of rescue, she found it. She had the clarity to navigate the closing with grace. She had the courage to grieve her loss without letting it consume her. She found peace not in the survival of her business, but in the survival of her spirit. The end of her bookstore was not the end of her story. It was a painful, heartbreaking chapter, but her anchor held. She eventually went on to use her love of books and community in a new way, working at the local library, helping kids discover the same magic she had once curated on her own shelves. Her life was different, but it was not over. Her peace was real. So when the storm in your life is raging, a health crisis, a financial disaster, a relationship crumbling, I invite you to try this prayer. Stop asking for the rain to stop, just for a moment, and instead ask for a durable umbrella. Ask for a steady heart and a clear mind. Let's say it together. A prayer for the moments when life is overwhelming. Dear God, my world feels like it's shaking, and I am afraid. I acknowledge the reality of this storm. I will not pretend it isn't hard. I surrender my need to control the outcome. I release my desperate plans and my fearful what-ifs. Instead of asking you to calm the storm, I ask you to calm my heart. Be my anchor. Grant me the strength to endure, the clarity to see my next step, and the courage to take it. Let me feel your peace, not as an absence of trouble, but as your unwavering presence with me in the middle of it. Help me to trust that even in this, you are with me. Amen. This prayer is a declaration that your inner state is not hostage to your outer circumstances. It is an act of profound spiritual defiance. It says to the chaos, you can rage all you want, You can take my sense of security, you can take my plans, you can even take my dreams. But you cannot take my peace. That is not yours to have. We've talked about finding peace from the quiet anxieties that whisper in the dark, and now from the roaring storms that threaten to capsize our lives. We've prayed for a quiet mind and a calm heart in the face of external chaos. But there is one storm left, one that is often the most relentless and the hardest to survive. What happens when the source of the turmoil, the architect of the anxiety, the voice of the harshest judgment, is you? How do you find peace when you are at war with yourself? This is the great paradox of the human heart. We can offer boundless compassion to a friend who has failed, endless patience to a child who is struggling, and profound forgiveness to others who have wronged us. Yet, when we turn that gaze inward, the grace evaporates. We become the unforgiving judge, the relentless prosecutor, and the cruelest of jailers, locking ourselves in a prison of past mistakes and future anxieties. The war with the self is a silent one, fought entirely within the confines of our own mind, but its casualties are real. It robs us of joy, drains our energy, and convinces us that we are unworthy of the very peace we seek. The path to quieting this internal war isn't found in winning the battle. It's not about finally silencing the inner critic through force of will or achieving a state of flawless perfection where it has nothing left to say. The path is found in laying down your arms. It is a quiet surrender, not to defeat, but to compassion. This brings us to our fifth and final prayer. A prayer not for the world to change, but for our relationship with ourselves to be healed. It is a prayer for self-compassion. Let me tell you about a woman named Clara. To the outside world, Clara was the definition of success. She was a brilliant architect, known for her sharp mind and even sharper designs. Her projects were celebrated. Her name was respected. But inside, Clara's mind was a battlefield. Every success was immediately minimized, dismissed as luck. Every tiny mistake, a misspoken word in a meeting, a calculation that was off by a fraction of an inch, was magnified into a catastrophic failure. She would lie awake at night, her mind a highlight reel of her own perceived inadequacies. The voice in her head was relentless, telling her she wasn't smart enough, wasn't working hard enough, that she was an imposter, and one day everyone would find out. Her breaking point didn't come from a massive public failure, but from a small private one. She had designed a beautiful custom bookshelf for a dear friend as a wedding gift. She spent weeks on it, pouring all her love and skill into the project. When she delivered it, her friend was overjoyed, but Clara noticed something. A single joint in a place no one would ever see was not perfectly flush. It was off by less than a millimeter. A tiny, insignificant imperfection. But to Clara it was a gaping wound. That night she couldn't sleep. The inner critic wasn't just whispering, it was screaming. You're a fraud. You can't even do this one simple thing right. You call yourself an architect? You're a failure. The beautiful gift she had created was now, in her mind, a monument to her own incompetence. The joy was gone, replaced by a thick, choking shame. She felt a crushing weight in her chest, the familiar ache of self-loathing. Exhausted and defeated, she found herself in an old, dusty bookstore a few days later, and a book practically fell off a shelf in front of her. The title was simple, The Grace of Imperfection. She flipped it open and a line jumped out at her. You would not speak to your worst enemy the way you speak to yourself. The words hit her like a physical blow. It was true. The venom, the cruelty, the absolute lack of mercy, she would never direct that at another human being. Why was it acceptable to inflict it upon herself day after day? The book spoke of a radical idea. Treating yourself with the same kindness you would offer a good friend. Felt alien. It felt undeserved. But she was desperate. That night, instead of replaying her failure with the bookshelf, she tried something new. Felt awkward, even foolish at first. She closed her eyes and whispered a prayer, not to a distant deity to fix her, but to the very core of her own being. It was a prayer of ceasefire. A prayer to lay down her arms. It went something like this. Divine source of all love, help me to see myself through your eyes. Help me to quiet the voice of judgment and amplify the voice of grace. I acknowledge that I am human, and to be human is to be imperfect. I release the version of me from yesterday that I am still punishing today. I forgive myself for the mistakes I have made, both known and unknown. May I offer myself the same kindness I so freely give to others. May I be patient with my own healing. May I believe that I am worthy of peace, not because I have earned it, but simply because I am. Grant me the serenity to accept my own flawed, beautiful humanity. Amen. She didn't feel a sudden miraculous shift. There was no flash of light. But for the first time in as long as she could remember, the screaming in her head subsided to a dull roar. A tiny seed of peace had been planted in the war-torn landscape of her mind. Clara made this prayer a practice. Every time the inner critic flared up, she would pause, take a breath, and repeat those words. When she felt the familiar shame over the bookshelf, she would tell herself, "You created something beautiful out of love. It is a symbol of your friendship, not your failure." Slowly, painstakingly, she began to rewire her own brain. The voice of the critic didn't vanish entirely, but it lost its power. It was no longer the commander of her thoughts, but a disgruntled soldier in the background, whose rant she could now choose to ignore. She learned that self-compassion wasn't about letting herself off the hook. It was about giving herself the support she needed to get back up and try again, stronger and more whole than before. Her work even improved, becoming more creative and daring, because she was no longer paralyzed by the fear of not being perfect. This prayer for self-compassion is the foundation upon which all other forms of peace are built. Think about the prayers we've explored together. How can you truly find peace from anxiety about the future if you believe you are not equipped to handle it? How can you release the pain of the past if you refuse to forgive the person who made the mistakes, yourself? How can you find stillness in the present moment if that moment is filled with self-criticism? And how can you trust in a higher plan if you believe you are fundamentally unworthy of its goodness? This final prayer ties them all together. It is the master key. Let's break down its power. First, it acknowledges humanity. I acknowledge that I am human, and to be human is to be imperfect. This is not an excuse, it's a fact. It's permission to stop holding yourself to an impossible superhuman standard. Perfection is the enemy of peace. Second, it practices forgiveness in the present. I release the version of me from yesterday that I am still punishing today. This is profound. You are not the same person you were 5 years ago, or even 5 minutes ago. This line allows you to unchain yourself from past selves and their mistakes, freeing the person you are right now to live without that burden. Third, it recalibrates your inner voice. May I offer myself the same kindness I so freely give to others. This is the core of the practice. It's a direct command to change the tone of your inner dialogue from one of criticism to one of compassion. It asks you to become your own best friend. And finally, it affirms your inherent worth. May I believe that I am worthy of peace, not because I have earned it, but simply because I am. This is the ultimate truth. Peace is not a reward for good behavior. It is your birthright. You don't have to climb a mountain of self-improvement to deserve a quiet mind. You only have to accept that you are already worthy of it, right here, right now, in all your glorious imperfection. So as we come to the end of our journey together, I invite you to take this final prayer not as a mere set of words, but as a practice, a new way of living. The path to a quiet mind is not a destination you arrive at, but a garden you tend to day by day. These 5 prayers are your tools. Use the prayer for the anxious future when you feel worry creeping in. Use the prayer for the painful past when regret whispers your name. Use the prayer for the chaotic present to find your anchor in the storm. Use the prayer for trust when you feel lost and alone. And every single day, use this prayer, the prayer for self-compassion. Tend to the soil of your own heart. Water it with kindness. Pull the weeds of self-judgment. Because a quiet mind isn't a mind that is empty. It's a mind that is full of grace, full of compassion, and full of a deep, unshakable peace that starts and ends with the love you are willing to give yourself. Thank you for walking this path with me. Be well and be kind to you.